Hey, welcome back to Triple B, where board games, bourbons, and beers collide. I'm your host, Steve, and today we are showcasing Scout, published by Oink Games, and we are pairing this card game with Contradiction Blended Straight Bourbon by Smooth Ambler. Scout is a Spirit of Jars award nominee card game for 2 to 5 players, known as a ladder climbing game with other elements found in what's known as trick taking games. Players play cards over a series of rounds where points are accumulated by trying to one up the last card or cards that was played by the previous player. The bow on top of this very enjoyable, quick, and compact card game is the indulgence of Contradiction Blended Straight Bourbon in between rounds. This West Virginia based bourbon, which is a blend of 2 unique whiskeys, will absolutely make your game night experience a memorable one. So join us at the table to learn more. All right, this is the game of Scout. It's for 2 to 5 players. Super quick game. Thematically, you are a leader of a circus, and these cards represent your circus performers. Matter of fact, there's even names on here and what they do in the circus. But thematically, that's it. Mechanically, those things don't matter. Mechanically, what really matters are these big numbers here on top and the big numbers on the bottom. Because at the beginning of each round, you get dealt a hand of cards and you're locked into what numbers and what order they're in. You can't rearrange them. But you do get to pick between these numbers here, or you turn around and have to make a decision if you want to use these numbers instead. Once each player has made that decision, we can go ahead and start the round, starting with the first player, in this case, this first player marker here. And you can do one of 3 things. You can show a performer, scout for a performer, or show and scout. So to show is pretty simple. You just play a card or multiple cards. In this case, you can play a 3, and that's showing. You can play multiple cards, more than one, but there's a couple rules here. The rule is it has to be a straight or a pair. For example, I could put the 7 and 8 out because that is a pair. That's a straight, rather. Or I could put 2 7s out, but I can't do that because they're not next to each other, so they're technically not pairs because there's a 1 in the way. So in this case, let's just go ahead and put a 3, and that'll be the active card. Like I said, there could be more cards out there, but starting off, a 3 is not so bad. Let me explain the other things you can do by using player 2 as the example. Player 2, just like with player 1, can go ahead and show, but in this case, since there's an active card out here, or cards, the only way they can show is if they can beat this card, and you can beat it by several ways. One is just outright. Obviously, this 7 is higher than a 3, and so player 2 could beat him that way. Or you could beat by playing multiple cards using the same rules. They have to either be a straight, like 7 8 9, or 7 8, or 8 9, or a pair of 5s will definitely beat this 3. No matter what the number is here on the cards that are out here in the active pile, if you have more cards played than what is actively out here, then you automatically beat those cards. It doesn't matter what the value is on there. There's a couple other little rules as well. The little tiny booklet, instruction booklet in the box can explain. You can figure that out on your own. Pretty simple. But that is how do you show. And so in this case, if you end up showing and beating this card, whatever cards were here that you beat, you turn them over, and that player gets that many points. Now, if you don't want to show and instead you want to scout, what scout means is, let me give you an example here. A scout means you take one of the cards that are out here in the active pile, but there's a couple rules there. One is it has to be either the one on the left, or the other rule is the one is that it has to be the card on the right. So in this example, if there happened to be a third card in the middle, you couldn't take that. You can take only from the ends. And when you do that, you have a special condition. When you bring that card in, you can put it anywhere in your pile, in your hand, but you can use it for the top or the bottom card. So you can strategically place it somewhere, either using the top or the bottom in your hand for something you possibly need. Like here's a pair of 7s, for example. When you take when you scout that losing, you're pretty much stealing or hiring that performer away from the original leader, the original owner. That owner, the previous owner, would get a point represented with this little chick here. So round and round we go, and the way a round ends is if one of 2 conditions is met. One is if a player has no cards in their hand, that ends the round, and also if the active cards that are here, in this case, player 1 played these 2 active cards. If it makes it all the way around and back to this player, and his or her cards are still out here, that triggers the end of the game as well, end of the round as well. At the end of the round, you start tallying up the points. You find, you tally up whatever points you have here, represented by a card turned over or represented by these little chits. And you also get negative 1 point for each card that's still remaining in your hand. So that's very important also. And you play, the number of rounds equals how many players there are. So if there's 5 players, you have 5 rounds or 5 opportunities to make points. Add up all those points together, and whoever has the most wins the game with Scout. Super easy game. Love it. I love how compact it is. It's easy to clean up and set up, and you can then move on. Oh, the last thing is also I said the third action you can do is you can show and scout one time around, and you use that using these little chits. And after you use it, you turn this into the supply so that you don't use it again accidentally. So that's it. Super easy. Love this game. Highly recommended. Now, our paired bourbon with Scout is pointedly called Contradiction, mainly because of the bold blend of opposing bourbons and that marriage of old and young bourbons within its mixture. 73% of Contradiction is a rye heavy Indiana distilled bourbon that has been aged for 9 years, which is then mixed with a 2-year-old West Virginia distilled wheated bourbon to make up that last 27%. Contradiction is a non chilled filtered and full bodied, which really helps you detect notes of dried fruit and buttered rum. Most bourbons are made up of 3 grains, either corn rye and barley or corn wheat and barley. However, what makes Contradiction so unique is it has the taste of all 4 grains that take on sweet notes of corn while holding a creamy and spicy flavor profile. Contradiction is a great bourbon to sip on in between rounds, as you and the other players take time to divvy out the points and reflect on what just occurred in that last round of play, and set up for that next one. Such a quick and fun game is complemented so well by an equally fun and enjoyable bourbon to pass the time. If you have any questions or comments about Scout or Contradiction Bourbon, please feel free to leave them in the comment section of this video. If you haven't done so already, please like this video and follow us on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. You can also email us at tripbgames@gmail.com. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.